Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Julia and I make commentary videos on pop culture, and I also have a second channel where I speak on all things lifestyle and my faith, and I'm going to be posting more on there. I know I said that last time, but really I have a couple videos filmed, just have to edit them. So thank you guys so much for your patience on that. As for today's video, we are going to be talking about a child star that I've been wanting to break down for so long just because I'm genuinely interested in his life, and I've been a fan of his work since I was like, what, 4, 5, 6, and that is Macaulay Culkin, or should I say Macaulay Culkin. That's his actual name. He changed his middle name, I think in 2018, to Macaulay Culkin, because he asked his fans on Twitter what he should change his middle name to, and that's what they voted for. So that's exactly what he did. I'm not joking. It's his legal name, and it's great. So that just set the tone for today's video. He's a weird guy. I'm not gonna lie. This guy's weird, but in a great way. Like, I love his eccentricity. I think it's interesting. So I just have a lot of respect for him in terms of like what he went through in the industry, the kind of things he went through as a child and teen star, and kind of just how he picked himself up and dusted himself off kind of thing. So, you know, I'm not crazy on celebrities, but he's one that I respect a lot. I just want to kind of go into his story from he had a very abusive father, and I also want to kind of dive into his teen struggles, like what he went through as a teenager with his parents' custody battle and things like that, and his struggles in the 2000s up until now. So without further ado, we're going to get into the breakdown of the iconic Macaulay Culkin. So again, as I said, Macaulay Culkin is one of the most recognizable child stars ever. He's had iconic roles such as Home Alone and Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, as well as Richie Rich. So really, this kid was all over the early 90s and was recognizable for the longest time and still is to this day. So if you don't know Macaulay Culkin, then you must be living under a rock because he dominated the Christmas scene, basically. So basically, Macaulay Carson Culkin was born on August 26, 1980 to Kid Culkin and Patricia Brentrup, and these two were never married, but they were together for 20 years until their separation. They had a very messy divorce and custody battle, which I'll get into more. But they basically had Macaulay and his other, I think, 6 siblings. These include his half-sister Jennifer, who passed away in 2000 from a drug overdose, and then we have Dakota Culkin, who died in 2008 in a car crash. And so already, just in Macaulay's nuclear family, a lot of tragedy there. Macaulay is also the older brother to Kieran Culkin, who was who played his younger brother in the Home Alone movies. So the kid that was always drinking soda and peeing everywhere, you know, like those jokes, that was who Macaulay's younger brother was. Like, that was his real younger brother. So they were together a lot, and I think Macaulay and Kieran were very close as kids. So Macaulay began acting at age 4. He appeared in movie roles such as The Midnight Hour, as well as the smash comedy film Uncle Buck.
Don't have one.
How come?
I don't need one.
Where's your wife?
Don't have one.
How come?
It's a long story.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
How come?
It's an even longer story.
Are you my dad's brother?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
38.
He already kind of had himself in very like important roles at a young age, and I think Uncle Buck was really the role that pushed him out into the forefront to get a big role such as Home Alone. So he actually cited that he doesn't really remember a time when he wasn't famous. He has maybe faint memories of walking in the park with his mom as a kid, but really he has no memory of never being famous. He's always been famous his whole life. So, and now for the one that we all know and love, let's dive into Home Alone. So Macaulay rose to superstardom in the classic film Home Alone. He did so well in this that he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award and won an American Comedy and Young Artist Award.
I got him!
Hello, Miss Roach.
Well, congratulations, Macaulay, on this big award you've won tonight. My goodness, I mean, the funniest leading man in a motion picture.
Well, thank you, Miss Welch.
So that just goes to show how groundbreaking this film was for his career, as well as, you know, the Christmas movie scene and just the movie scene in general. Like, he did so well in this film, and it really, like, Home Alone itself, I think, is a very charming concept because you have a kid who has the house to himself and he's trying to take out these bad guys with all these crazy contraptions, and, you know, it's like a child's dream. And I think the goal for Home Alone, I think I read one of the directors or the writers of the script said that they wanted to take adults back to a nostalgic time in life, you know, thinking back to your youth, thinking back to you as a kid. And I know when I watched Home Alone as a kid, I always wanted to be Kevin McAllister. Okay, I wanted to have those kinds of brains. I mean, I love stuff like that as a kid. And I also, you know, now as an adult, it makes me think back to those days when I used to want to be that kid. So they accomplished their mission with that. Clay Routledge, an associate professor at North Dakota State University, said Home Alone evokes nostalgia, like I just said, so really makes you feel like you're back in your old house as a kid, you know, those kind of fantasies. So Home Alone shot Macaulay into millionaire status. For the first Home Alone movie, Mac was paid $110,000, and then for the second movie, he was paid $4 million. So that just goes to show how big this film was, and from the first to the second, how it just catapulted this kid. Like I mean, that's crazy. I can't imagine being paid $110,000 and then being paid $4 million for the next movie. It's like, wow, you know, so he was like 10, 12 years old having all this money, which he didn't even know he had. So I'll get more into that later. So we're going to dig kind of into like his struggles, I guess, with fame and his parental struggles. So Macaulay said that he couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. And there was one day while he was shooting Home Alone 2, while he was in his trailer, there was a group of about 200 people shaking his trailer trying to get in. So he was, I think, changing in between scenes, and there were just all these people just shaking his trailer, and he's like, what the heck? And he then said in a New York Mag interview in 2001 that he was a self-diagnosed agoraphobic. So that's just really crazy. I can't imagine that, and he was only like 12 at the time when filming this, so I can't imagine being 12 years old and feeling like you can't go anywhere. And he even said that he used to play with kids in his neighborhood, and literally overnight these kids started looking at him like he was like this amazing star, and like they weren't treating him normally anymore. I couldn't imagine that. It's like, yo, we just played trucks yesterday. Like, I just rode your skateboard yesterday. I couldn't imagine that. That's pretty crazy. So now I want to get into Macaulay and his dad, because I think this is really like the bulk of why child stardom for Macaulay was so hard. He really struggled with his dad. And by the way, just random side note, if you hear me call Macaulay Mac, that's his nickname. That's what his friends and a lot of people call him. So I'm going to use Macaulay and Mac interchangeably. So Mac expressed that his dad was working him extensively, and he expressed that while he was working on The Good Son, which he did this film in 1993, he said that he told his dad that he just wanted to relax and enjoy his summer because he was working a lot and he was tired. He just wanted to have fun. And so his dad was like, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. And Macaulay knew that his dad was just kind of bluffing him when he would say stuff like that. And so his dad would say that, and then next thing he knew, he was working on another project. So that was really frustrating. Referring back to The Good Son, Kid Culkin was a very, very hard man to work with. He ruled with an iron fist, and he was very rude to people and very demanding, pretty much like a terror on set wherever he was. And he demanded on the set of The Good Son that if they did not put him in a serious role, that Macaulay was not going to come back for Home Alone 2. So he filmed The Good Son in between Home Alone 1 and 2, and he was like, if you don't give him a good role, he's not coming back for Home Alone 2, which is just crazy. And that made directors and producers really wary, I think, to work with Mac and his siblings, because they were like, this man is insane, you know what I mean? So yeah. So I'll be getting onto this fact later in the video, but Macaulay and Michael Jackson were very well connected. They were very good friends. Macaulay used to hang out with Michael Jackson at Neverland, and basically they were very close together, and he felt that he connected well with Michael because they both had fathers. They both had fathers that ruled with an iron fist, that didn't let them really have childhoods and all these things. So they bonded a lot. So I'll be getting more into that. And Mac actually said that he wanted to defend Michael in 1993 with his first trial, but then his dad didn't let him. So I'll get more into that. So Macaulay's dad used to hit him, his siblings, and his mom when he was young. And Macaulay cited how intimidating Kit was on set. He was always yelling to someone and intimidating people. And Macaulay said that his dad wasn't money hungry, but power hungry. And Macaulay's lawyer at the time also, at the time of this interview, because this interview is from when he was around 20 years old, his lawyer at the time also said that Kit Culkin was all about power. You know, he just wanted to exercise power over his family. Once he lost the custody battle, that was like when he realized, like, I'm not gonna have control. And that's when he basically was like, whatever, I disown you all and blah, 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 and then ran away out west. So, Kit Culkin was a mess. He was an absolute mess. And according to Mac, his father forced him to sleep on the couch despite all the money he was making. He says it was his dad's way of teaching him a lesson. So it was almost like in Macaulay's view, it was like his dad was trying to humble him and be like, oh, so what if you're this star? You're still sleeping on the couch. And so that's really, really awful, I can imagine. So eventually Mac's parents separated, and Macaulay said that they didn't even notice his father was gone. They would be watching TV, they'd be laughing about movies, and then it was just like, oh, kid's gone. Like, they didn't even really notice that the man was gone, which is really insane. To this day, Macaulay nor his siblings are in touch with their father. And in 2014, the Daily Mail, which is a questionable source, but they got like an exclusive with Macaulay Culkin's dad. And Kit actually had suffered a massive stroke around that time, and he said to reporters that he doesn't consider Macaulay as son anymore. So he's just like, whatever. And basically now, according to that article, Kit's life is pretty terrible. He had a stroke in 2014. They said that he doesn't really drive because of the stroke, and his partner, or his, I don't know, wife or someone, her name's Jeanette Krylowski. Oh, and she's a whole nother situation as well. She's a whole nother piece to like that puzzle. She cites that Macaulay and his siblings are lying and that Kit never abused them. And she's like, oh, the whole thing about the couch is a lie because they had moved into a new apartment and the furniture hadn't come yet. So Macaulay had to sleep on the couch. And, you know, Macaulay said, well, that's not the story because you weren't there. I never saw you. You were never there during my childhood. So how can you say you know what happened between me and my father and everything like that? Yeah, so he said that maybe she was there behind the scenes, but I didn't see her. So I wanted to add something about Jeanette Krylowski. So I found out that she actually died 5 years ago. I think she passed away from illness, and Kit Culkin ended up moving away from the place that they stayed together. And there was also something that she said about Kieran, so Macaulay's younger brother, that I really didn't like. And she was like, this is how I know it got really bad. We had Kieran here for 3 days, and all he did while he was here was he didn't get to spend enough time with his dad. I found out later when I read the court case that they claimed he had been kidnapped to Arizona. Kidnapped, she fumes. First of all, why are you saying that a teenager wanting to spend more time with their father, why are you making that out like that's a bad thing? You know, and again, it's like, you know, I know she's passed away, so rest her soul, but it's like, that's terrible. What makes you think people are gonna look at you favorably? Come on, bro, like, what? And I think her intention was trying to make Kit Culkin look favorable, because it's like, oh, you know, while he was here, all he wanted to do was spend time with his dad. But it just, to me, when I first read that, that came across as if she found Kieran to be a burden. So I don't know, that's just crazy. I know we don't know the full story. We don't know what was really going on. But again, I feel more inclined to believe Macaulay and his siblings because, again, to this day, they still don't talk to him. So yeah. So I don't know. I just think like with Kit Culkin's life now and how he just, you know, his kids don't visit him. His life is just completely different. You know, I just see that as like, I think there's this old adage and it goes like, treat your children well when they're young, so that way they'll treat you well when you're old. That completely is the case here with Kit Culkin, because you were just a drill sergeant with all your family. You were to them, and I get that there's many sides to a story when it comes to parenting, but I think it speaks volumes when your entire like family unit doesn't talk to you, and you even had a stroke and no one came to see you. I think that speaks a lot of volumes. And it's like, if it was really the case that maybe Mac or Kieran or whoever was brainwashed, let's say Mac and Kieran were brainwashed, if that's the case, why are the rest of them not talking to you? You know, that's the thing. So I don't know. I just hope he is thinking about how he treated his family. I'm hoping that he's like, you know, reflecting, and I think it's a shame, but he's terrible. Even after he lost the custody battle, he stole Mac's memorabilia. Macaulay did an interview about how a lot of his like early stuff from like plays and like shows that he was on, it was all gone once Kit, you know, he lost the custody battle, and he didn't even show up to the last day of the trial, which is crazy. Let's get into Macaulay's retirement from acting. So after Macaulay finished filming Richie Rich in 1994, he decided to take a break from acting. He wanted to be normal, and he was tired of the Hollywood lifestyle. And eventually, so like I said before about the custody battle, Macaulay's mother eventually filed a custody suit once her and Mac's father separated. And it was then that Macaulay realized how much he was worth, over $50 million. He said he had no idea because his father used to hide newspapers from him so he wouldn't find out. So Macaulay never knew. Up until he was around 16, 17, he never knew how much he was worth. He never knew how much he was making. he just assumed he was just, you know, I'm making some money, but he never knew how much money he was really making. Mac's mom couldn't pay rent because Mac had millions of dollars in the bank that he didn't have access to. So Macaulay's mother was literally about to be evicted from her apartment because, you know, Kit Culkin, Macaulay's dad, had access over all his funds. So he then took both of his parents off of his finances. So Macaulay decided to take both his mom and dad off of his trust, so that way there wouldn't be such a mess with the battle. So it's very interesting because the media reported it as if Macaulay divorced his parents, but he said, I never divorced them. I never got emancipated from them. I just took them off my trust and found an executor, so that way it wouldn't look so messy. Because he was like, oh, if I only take my dad off, it's going to look really messy. It's going to look really bad. So let me take both off. So I don't know. It's still a little confusing. I was trying to like piece it together and I was still a little confused about it because it seemed like once Mac turned like 17 that he was basically on his own. So I don't know if he was truly emancipated or not, but he says he wasn't, so I'll just go with that. But yeah, like I said before, Kit didn't even show up to the last day of the trial and ended up stealing Mac's memorabilia. So yeah, definitely a man scorned and a man that lost, and he couldn't accept his loss gracefully and just ran away and took his son's stuff with him. Pretty crazy. So then let's get into Macaulay's late teen years and his marriage to Rachel Miner. So Mac went to high school at the professional children's school and would invite kids over to his apartment. So after Kit left, he had his own room, he had his own space, like he had all this space, and he would always invite friends over. He would have graffiti, he dyed his hair multiple colors, and he had beer parties as well. But he was kind of like, I don't think I'm acting any differently than someone my age. And they actually had a former classmate in this interview with the New York Mag, and his classmate said, well, he's as normal as you would be for being a millionaire at 8. You know, like he's pretty normal. He's a pretty normal kid despite everything that he went through in his childhood. So, you know, he had a lot of friends, and he said that he ended up only going to school. By the time he was in high school, he only started going for social reasons. So he got to his senior year and he was pretty much just going to school just to have, like, talk to people, which I guess in a way, if you grew up in Hollywood and you didn't really have much of a childhood, it's not crazy that you're only going to school to socialize, because it's like, hey, I want to feel normal. But he was the type of kid that really didn't try hard in school. He did really well on his standardized tests, but then didn't do crap for his regular assignments. And so I think the administration at his school would get really frustrated with him. And he was just like, whatever. And he ended up dropping out just a few credits shy of graduation, which is wild to me. I would have just finished it out, but oh well. It was like 20 years ago. He married his classmate Rachel Miner on June 21st, 1998. And it was a very low-key wedding. And at this time, it was crazy because Mac was only 17. I didn't look up how old Rachel was. I'll add it on the screen if I can find it. But Mac was only 17 when he got married. So that's really, really crazy that he got married, but you know, that was what he did back then. And it was low-key, and they were together for 2 years and separated in 2000, and they got finally divorced in 2002. So yeah, that was a very crazy time of his life. There also was a lot going on during their marriage. Macaulay's mother actually went through a house fire, an apartment fire that ended up, I think, 4 people, and he was also sued. She was sued for $80 million, and Macaulay was sued for about $113,000. I think I recall reading. Yeah, about over $100,000. And Mac was like, they were making it seem like I went in there and started the fire. So that's really crazy that they sued Macaulay even though he wasn't even there. That all happened during their marriage, so it was just a lot. I wanted to just briefly mention this because this is part of his story. Macaulay was very close to Michael Jackson. They were very, very close. Mac visited Neverland when he was 9 years old, and he said that Michael just called him up and was like, you know, I want you and your brother Kieran to visit Neverland. And he sent them a helicopter, and he had a private zoo. They used to play with water guns. They used to run around, play games, all that stuff. And again, Macaulay said that he really could relate to Michael because they both had similar upbringings, and so they understood each other. He's like, there's not that many people that grew up like us. And so I think that was really where the bond started. And in 2004, Macaulay defended Michael Jackson and still defends him to this day up until 2020. So he very much rides for Michael still to this day and was a dear friend to him. And Macaulay is currently the godfather of Prince Michael I, Paris Michael Jackson, and Biggie Jackson, who are Michael's kids. I think Prince now, I think is 25, Paris is about to be 24, and Biggie is 19. So yeah, he's still their godfather. Him and Paris are very, very close. He's given Paris a lot of advice in the industry, like how to act in the industry and like different things like that. And they're very, very close. And she calls him Uncle Mac. So he's also very fiercely protective of her as well. So, which makes a lot of sense. You know, I can just tell just from photos and hearing them talk about each other that they're very much like, almost like another like father-daughter kind of thing, but I guess uncle-niece. So they're very close. So now we're gonna get into the 2000s with Mac, and as well as his dating situation when he dated Mila Kunis, basically. So he dated Mila Kunis for 8 years from 2002 to 2010, and there's not a lot online about their relationship. They kept it very low-key, but Mila Kunis did come out a couple years ago and said that it was her fault that their relationship ended, that she effed up, that she was messed up, she was an a-hole in her 20s, and she did him wrong. So she admitted that in a podcast, and that was really kind of all I could find about that. However, she did mention that it was very abnormal dating him sometimes because a lot of fans, the way fans reacted to him when they saw him was very abnormal. She says that they would just not even know how to act like people anymore. And I think that was a lot for her to handle. But again, I don't know what the real issue was. They never really came out and said it. And I think that's good that they never mentioned it. But she mentioned that she really messed up in that relationship. So in 2004, Macaulay was busted for 17.3 grams of marijuana, 8 Xanax pills, and 16 white pills. And in 2020, he claimed that he dabbled in drugs but never misused them and never went to rehab. So that was circling around a lot at that time when the mugshot of him came out. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, he's falling, he's slipping, he's another child star going crazy. And Max said that it was never like that. He said in 2020 in an interview with the Esquire that it was never like that. He was really he was just trying. I think he was just experimenting with them, but he never went crazy with them. But I think what made people kind of really doubt this more was that there was a photo that came out in 2012 of him looking very gaunt and frail. And I remember when this came out, I was like in high school and I remember being shocked. I was like, what is going on with all these child stars? And I think around that time, Amanda Bynes was also really going through a lot. And there was a lot, you know, Lindsay Lohan, there was a lot of child stars just going through their, you know, their real downward spiral phase. And I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that. They were really struggling a lot. So I was really worried for him. He was definitely going through all that, but he said he was not on heroin. So Max says he feels like his childhood could have been worse, but he's grateful for where he is now. He says like, oh, I could have been a child soldier. I could have been going through this. I could have been going through that. And while I did go through things, I feel like it could have been a lot worse for me. And I'm grateful that now I'm like I have beautiful animals. I have a beautiful girlfriend. I have all this stuff. Like he's very grateful for where he is today, which I think is a wonderful way to look at all of his trials from his childhood. So now we're going to discuss my favorite part of this video, the part that I just was really, you know, happy to write about. And this is his comeback and his engagement to Brenda Song. The engagement that none of us saw coming. The baby that we never saw coming. So I really want to get into this. So Macaulay has had an amazing comeback. And again, while I'm not the one to like fawn over celebrities, I really am proud. And I really think, you know, I'm really glad that he is in such a good place, you know, after everything he's been through. It's just really nice to see him happy and healthy. It's really nice to see someone who was struggling be healthy. It's just like Orlando Brown, you know, Orlando was going through a lot and now he's super happy and healthy today. I mean, it's just nice to see people like, you know, when they struggle, they rebound. It's great. So back in November 2021, just a few months ago, he walked in a Gucci fashion show and I think he looked really great in this. He looked very healthy. He, you know, looked very stylish. So I thought he looked great in that. He also did a Google commercial that was a Home Alone parody. That was really fun to watch, see him like kind of reenact some scenes and just play his old role. And that was really cute. He also had, I don't think he's still in this band. I have to check. I will add it up here. But he had a band called Pizza Underground where they basically remixed all the songs from Velvet Underground and made them about pizza. So that's another thing that he did. And he was also in Seth Green's movie Changeland, which is where he met his now fiance and mother of his first child, Brenda Song. So that's how they met. They met on the set of a show. So that's kind of how it started there. He also had a podcast called Bunny Ears, which he had many guests. He had Lizzo on there. He had a lot of different people. He did that podcast for about a year and a half or so. I haven't seen him post any new episodes. I think the last one I saw was from 2019, so I don't think he's still doing that. But yeah, he's not really in like the spotlight like that now. He doesn't do a whole lot now. He just does little things here and there, makes little appearances. So yeah, let's get more into Brenda Song. I also had to add that he was in American Horror Story, so that's another big role that he's taken on since his child actor days. And he also is going to star in a new docuseries called Macaulay Culkin's Midlife Crisis. It's literally going to be about him having a midlife crisis and I guess what he's had to confront as a middle-aged person and reconciling the fact that he was so famous as a kid. So we're going to get, an inside look into his life there. So I think that's pretty cool. So Brenda and Mac met on the set of Changeland, and they were spotted having dinner together, which sparked rumors. So that's kind of where that blossomed. That was in 2017. And then he spoke about hoping to have children with Brenda on the Joe Rogan podcast. And Brenda said that she really bonded with Mac because they were both child stars. So that's kind of where that point came in. You know, it seems like child stars bond with other child stars. So it kind of makes sense. They really bonded over that. And then fast forward to 2021, Brenda and Mac welcomed their first child, Dakota Song Culkin, who was named after Macaulay's sister that died in a car crash in 2008. So they're now reportedly engaged, and Brenda had an engagement ring on her finger, which was spotted earlier this year. So yeah, it's really crazy. I wouldn't have expected Brenda of all people, but hey, life has a funny way of bringing you to people you never thought you'd be with. So I'm really happy for them. I'm really happy that he's so happy. I mean, Brenda has spoken very highly of him. They're very private about their relationship, so there's not much to say about it. But they seem like a weird pairing, but it fits. To me, it fits. I think it's odd, but it fits. It's odd because of you wouldn't expect it, but it fits, and they're very happy together, and I just really hope that they have great lives. I've always loved Brenda Song. I think, you know, obviously she was in Sweet Life. That's where I and many of us know her most. I think she really served as positive Asian representation back in the day, because there weren't a lot of Asians on TV in Hollywood like that. So I think Brenda really put on for a lot of young kids, and yeah, I think it's just great. I think his life's great and everything. Yeah, that was basically all I had to say. That was all kind of the major things with Macaulay. It's like, he had like a very interesting life, you know, because of his connections to certain people. But I respect how he's always been pretty low key about his life, and he has a optimistic look on life, and he's very eccentric, and he's funny. He's a very funny guy. Like, I like the guy. I really wish him success, continued success in his life, and that, you know, his children, or that his son is all good and healthy, and I hope they have a great marriage. And yeah, that's all I had to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about Macaulay as much as I enjoyed talking about his story. Yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!